So let's look to the defense here. Isaiah Foskey, sack leader, career sack leader at Notre Dame. He had a sack and a half against USC. With all the things that we talk about, the acrobats from Caleb Williams, who's going to replace his production?
That's where I mentioned Justin Admilola earlier. He has the 6th year available to him via COVID pandemic eligibility waivers. Will he take it will depend on his NFL draft evaluation. He is probably the biggest name on this team where is he going to get a stay in school? Is he going to get a second round? He won't get a second round, but will the stay in school convince him? If he comes back, any 24-year-old is going to excel in college football. Just that's how reality is. And he will be able to focus more on college football than on classes because he's going to be closing in on a master's by then. But it's a huge question mark if he will return at all. If he does, that defensive line still looks pretty good. Got Justin Admilola, Gabriel Rubio, once described famously as wide as a Volkswagen, which that's 2 holes in the defensive line. Howard Cross and his puncher's hands. And then on the far end, you go back to Riley Mills, who's one of the biggest human beings on the football field. Or you can pull up Nana Osafo-Mensah, who had a really breakthrough season this year that had long been expected. He just never had his chance. That defensive line still has players. It might not have the overwhelming depth, or at least not that we know of yet, but it still has. I mean, those starting 4 right there would be quite something.
With the offensive and defensive lines at Notre Dame, my experience in recent years is that you don't worry about it. Someone's going to lock and load. Those 2 groups, for me, are like the safest. That's where Notre Dame's kind of built their bread and butter personally. I think that's what makes it go. So I'm not worried about that. I have been worried about secondary at Notre Dame for some time. This season, I was concerned about the secondary. I think at times they were exposed, but Benjamin Morrison has restored my hope and my faith.
Hold on, Corey. I want to ask you, when were they exposed?
Well, I mean, there are some times when you have like a one-on-one matchup, right? So let's think about, in Ohio State, let's go way back then. Ohio State, it was more run fits for me. You need so a secondary that can tackle is an excellent secondary for me personally. I want cornerbacks and safeties who can go out there and make plays. In Ohio State, I think that the front 7 did a good job of holding them for the most part, but they weren't able to fill the gaps against a great team, right? So that's one example. And then some of these, as far as coverages are concerned, I'm trying to think of an example on my top of my head.
I think you're thinking the 4th quarter against North Carolina. And when you're up 45-20, you know what? You shouldn't have mental lapses, but you're up 45-20. If you let, I think his first name is Antoine Green blow by you, I'm not going to get too worked up over it. Now, yeah, that happened twice, but Notre Dame was up 45-20 against North Carolina. To me, the final 12 points, who cares?
Interesting. Yeah, but I thought with Morrison, one thing that impressed me with him is that he restored my faith as far as being a lockdown corner, like someone like a Julian Love type.
Yes.
Someone like a Cole Luke type who could go get like a ball hawk. I don't think the emphasis from the defensive secondary that we kept hearing over and over again all season was forced turnovers, right? And I didn't see that for the first, half of the season. But then as the season progressed, I saw those turnovers coming. So that's kind of what I meant as far as questions about the secondary.
And the beauty of a Benjamin Morrison moving forward is just that one position strengthens the rest of the secondary because they don't have to worry about his guy. They don't have to shade his safety over. Like Benjamin Morrison's got that one. The safeties can help out with everything else.
Yes. So, and like last year too, you thought about, Kyle Hamilton. One thing that kept coming up when we were talking about Kyle was he was like the magic eraser, meaning that he was so talented that he could make up for the shortcomings of the secondary, which that's kind of what I meant as well as like, okay, well, that Kyle Hamilton can run across the field and save you and pick it off or make the play in coverage. I was worried, well, do they have that kind of player this year? And the answer, like I said, Benjamin Morrison for me filled that gap as someone who can get you the ball, force turnovers, and he just has a knack for it. So that to me was exciting moving forward.
And his counterpart next season should be Jaden Mickey along with Cam Hart. And Cam Hart announced this week he will return next season. A shoulder injury will keep him out of the bowl game. But with his return, you have up to 4 cornerbacks with starting experience in 2023. While Jaden Mickey got beat a few times this season, the 2 of the 3 times that come to my mind, he was left on an island by a safety blitz. And the first one was way back at Ohio State. And Al Golden said immediately afterward, Tariq Bracy got injured the play before, and we shouldn't have called that when Jaden Mickey was the freshman corner in this first game. And that was a huge personal mistake by me, the defensive coordinator. But so those mistakes, sure, they stick with Jaden Mickey, but they shouldn't reflect on him. He might not have had the interceptions that Benjamin Morrison had this year, but in August, Jaden Mickey was more hyped. Jaden Mickey is the supposed quarterback of the future just this past preseason. So those two together should really shore up that secondary. And you're right, Notre Dame's defensive line will reload. Notre Dame's linebackers won't have a ton of turnover. So when you have 2 corners that you can trust, this defense might be primed for another excellent season.